Hi there and thanks for watching this week's Weatherquest farming forecast. Before we get onto the forecast, just like to say if you've got any comments or feedback about this video, previous videos, or anything you'd like to see in future videos, feel free to leave us a comment below or reply on our tweets from social media, or even drop us an email at info@weatherquest.co.uk. We'd love to hear from you if you've got any comments or feedback, and like I say, anything you'd like to see that will be helpful to you in future videos. Before we take a look at the forecast, let's just take a quick look at how much rainfall we saw over the weekend just gone, the weekend 14th, 15th of November. So there's quite a hefty amount of rain in some parts of Western Scotland, Northwest England, Wales and parts of Ireland, particularly Northern Ireland there. And this rainfall is estimated by the radar. Some high ground areas saw 60 to 70 mil, that sorts of amount, but there was a fairly widespread 40 to 50 across some of these areas as well. Now there was a slightly drier area in parts of northeast England, Yorkshire, Nottinghamshire, Lincolnshire, through there that missed a lot of the heavier rain, but there was this then area of heavy rain that spread up out of the continent across southern England into East Anglia. And some parts of southern England you can see here saw 30 to 40 mil in places, so quite a wet weekend. Those rainfall amounts did tail off as you move further north, but still places saw a good 15 mil for some places. And actually some stations, particularly in southeast England and along the south coast, saw something like 10 to 15 millimetres in a single hour. So as opposed to just persistent rain, it was pretty heavy as well at times, with probably some localised flooding from intensities of that much falling in such a small space of time. But yeah, very wet weekend. I think going forward we are going to continue to see a few fronts come through, but potentially nothing quite as heavy and persistent as that. A lot of the rain looks to be patchier for this week. So this is how things are looking likely will stand first thing tomorrow morning. We've got this ridge of high pressure building into southeastern parts, but you can see it's quite breezy. It's going to be quite mild as well, a lot of milder air coming up from the southwest. So mild, dry, perhaps some sunshine as well to start on Wednesday. But you can see this area of low pressure through Wednesday pushes eastwards. There could be a few showers ahead of the front, which then comes through, clears to the east on Wednesday afternoon, and then a few showers coming through for Wednesday afternoon in northern areas. And as that front clears eastwards, it's going to bring a lot of cooler air with it. So highs on Wednesday before that front clears, something like 15, maybe 16 degrees in places. But then as this colder air comes through, you can see going right back up to the north, there's some winteriness over the highlands as well. It's going to bring some quite chilly air down for many places. So a contrast in the temperatures for Wednesday night. You can see there's some quite tight isobars as well here as this low pulls away to the east. So it's going to be quite breezy for many places, particularly down the Irish Sea. There could be some quite strong gusts on Wednesday night and into Thursday. But Thursday for southern areas probably starts just about dry. As this low pulls away, it does bring some showers through, but then by the end of Thursday and into Friday, that high pressure builds. The winds do ease down, but it is going to be quite chilly by Friday morning. You can see before this next warm front arrives, we're still in this colder air down the eastern side. So there could be a touch of frost, maybe even an air frost in places, particularly over the highlands and parts of northeast England. But even some southern areas could see temperatures maybe just dip down to close to zero. So quite a chilly start to the day on Friday, but it looks like it will be largely dry with all that showeriness clearing to the east during Thursday afternoon and evening. Now for the rest of Friday, we've got this fairly broad ridge of high pressure building in to the southeast, but there is this next front out here to the west, and that's going to push some quite mild air behind this front, but it's going to push some patchy rain eastwards over the course of Friday, that beginning to clear to the east by the end of Friday, and we're into another broad, mild, breezy, warm sector ahead of this next front, which then slips southwards by the end of Saturday. In the north and west, you can see it's quite breezy with some showers coming through, and we're back to some slightly chillier air behind this front as it sinks southwards. So a few fronts pushing through over the next few days, but as you can see, a lot of this rain looks quite patchy, and although a lot of the fields are already quite wet, it doesn't take a huge amount of rain to make them saturated. It looks like we're not probably in this week going to see anything of the 10-15 mil in a single rain event. It's more going to be patchy rain. So by Saturday, that rain slowly sinking southwards. If you'd like, the best way of staying on top of the forecast and gauging any changes or slight tweaks that might come day to day is to ring our forecasters directly. You can do so on the number on the screen there. They're available every day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. at £1.55 a minute plus network access charges, and they'll be able to give you the latest up-to-date forecast, any uncertainty in the models, the spread of what might happen, and just a general forecast for whatever you might require. So give them a ring if you've got any questions questions about the forecast. Now into the early part of next week, so we saw that front on Saturday night, that's going to sink away to the south during Sunday, and into the early part of next week we do actually see this area of high pressure build in from the south. So largely dry, I think, for many eastern and southern areas for the early part of next week. But you can see there's this next area of low pressure and frontal system wanting to push through. So by the middle part of next week, that's going to be somewhere across central areas moving eastward. So the timings of this don't take too literally. I think there's going to be a little bit of back and forth with how quickly that comes through. But at some point, I think most places will see that front move eastwards during the middle part of next week. But you can see apart from that, there's high pressure out here to the southwest, another area of high pressure out to the southeast, but these are punctuated by this area of low pressure here, and actually even further back, another area of low pressure down to the southwest. So there's a few ridges and a few areas of low pressure to come through through the middle part of next week. So it's going to stay fairly changeable, but there should be some drier weather around either side of these fronts as they do come through. Now, I was mentioning about the temperature swings that we might see over the next few days. So this is just a ensemble temperature forecast for Cambridge, just showing basically the changes in temperatures that's fairly representative for a lot of southern and eastern England over the next few days. So you can see Wednesday afternoon, potentially highs of 15 or 16 degrees in places with that milder air. Once the front comes through, we're into something quite chilly for Thursday, and then you can see that temperature drop overnight Thursday into Friday. A lot of spread in how cold it might actually get, but you can see some places are getting temperatures down to close to freezing. So potential for an air frost is one to keep an eye on and watch out for on Thursday night into Friday. But the cold air doesn't last too long. That next front coming through does bring temperatures back up to something slightly milder. We're back up into the double figures for daytime highs from Saturday onwards. So a brief cold snap around Thursday, Friday. And then onwards, really, there's a slight decrease in the temperatures, but much more spread. We're back to something a little bit more seasonal, but the extremes of what the models are going for are still, there's potentially some mild temperatures, even out into the early part of December. That's getting up to the mid-teens, and on the other side of things, could potentially see some frosty nights. So a bit more uncertainty, I think, with the temperatures going forward. With these fronts coming through, there's going to be some milder air around at times. So potentially some mild air, but potentially some chilly nights at times as well. It's just worth keeping on top of when exactly those are going to come through. With all this stuff, as ever, there's so much detail on our Weatherquest farming portal online. All sorts of things, probability outlooks, the standard 10-day forecast for your location, as well as the longer range monthly forecast as well. So all sorts of useful information on the Weatherquest online farming portal. If you'd like a 2-week free trial of that, drop us an email at info@weatherquest.co.uk. and we'll be able to set that up for you as well. And if you would like to ring and have a chat through, feel free to ring the office on our admin line, and you can chat through in more detail what's on offer there and what we can offer you in that free trial. So worth checking out if you want to see any uncertainty and what's going on in the forecast. So looking a bit further ahead and further afield across Europe, this here's the pressure anomaly for next week, so the week beginning the 23rd of November. And as I mentioned, you can see there's a good signal for high pressure being out to the south across southern Europe, and at times ridging in to the UK as well. So we're kind of on that borderline of there's always high pressure around trying to push in, but you can see low pressure near Iceland is going to push a few fronts through, and we're in this area of quite active westerly jet stream. So a bit of a battleground really between this high out to the south and those low pressure areas out to the north, and that's really reflected in the rainfall. Much of Europe seeing below average rainfall, especially across southern and southeastern Europe. Into the UK, parts of southern and eastern England up to parts of eastern Scotland could see below average rainfall, as that high at times just buffets a lot of that rain that comes through. But further west, Ireland, parts of western Scotland, western England and western Wales could see rainfall amounts end up for the week above average as we see those fronts come through. But the further south and east you are, I think the drier it will be, the less rainfall those fronts will have on, and they'll generally turn a bit patchier. In terms of temperatures, with that southwesterly flow, we're going to see some quite mild temperatures pretty much across much of northern and western Europe. You can see fairly widespread mild temperatures right the way through to Scandinavia. With that high kind of around here, it is going to draw some quite cool air down across Eastern Europe into southeastern Europe and parts of Italy and around the Mediterranean. So below average temperatures across that part of Europe, but elsewhere we'll see temperatures above average. Now into the following week, just nudging into the first part of December, that high that was originally around here becomes more shifted further east. We do see something perhaps a little bit more unsettled over the British Isles and parts of northwest Scandinavia and even into parts of Western Europe as well. You can see these blue colours here showing a signal for lower than average pressure. So potentially something slightly more unsettled. I think that sort of area will see below average rainfall and potentially something slightly above average for the UK and parts of Norway and Western Europe. In terms of temperatures, as you can see, it's still fairly mild. A lot of that southwesterly air is going to be quite mild coming across us. So above average temperatures for most places. That cold pool, as the high shifts east, that also shifts east, and parts of Western Russia and kind of around this sort of area do see the below average temperatures linger, but for much of Europe it's generally staying above average. Now into the second week of December, it's a pretty similar pattern really. We have this area of high pressure signal generally for the southeast, so that's going to bring drier than average rainfall, drier than average conditions, below average rainfall for those sorts of areas. You can see there's still this unsettled look for northern and western Europe, hints of low pressure hanging around over us. So the British Isles, parts of Iberia, western France through to Scandinavia could end up seeing above average rainfall for that period. So generally the last 2 weeks of that forecast looking a bit more unsettled for us, with that high pressure becoming more concentrated further east and southeast. And with those monthly images, you can see more detailed images for rainfall, temperature, solar radiation on our farming portal. So again, if you want to look at a free trial of that, just drop us an email and you'll be able to see that in much more detail with some forecaster commentary as well. So in overview, it's going to be changeable this week, with temperatures swinging from quite mild days to some quite chilly nights. And like I said, there's the potential for frost on a few nights, but rainfall amounts wise, it's not going to be too heavy. There's going to be a few patchy fronts coming through, but nothing too torrential for most places. It looks like high pressure will build into the early part of next week, and that could bring some drier weather briefly, but then the outlook is for something more unsettled as we move into December for Western Europe, with that high pressure beginning to lurk away down to the southeast. So becoming more unsettled into December, but still with the hint of something slightly milder. So thanks for watching this week's video. As I mentioned earlier, please leave some comments below or in an email if you've got any feedback or anything you'd like to see in future videos. Thanks for watching.